Before we get you back to court, let's bring in trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Part of what these experts are doing is really putting the defendant in the place to have met with, seen, been around Mello. It proves that piece of it. Is that enough? Are there other things that you're looking for from these cell phone data experts?
I mean, yeah, the 1,700 text messages between them on WhatsApp. I'm looking to see, I want them to put them in as much proximity with Mello as possible, and here's why. Because we know that the jury, when they decide this case at the end of the day, they're going to have, the neighbor testifying. I saw a person with reddish brown hair on a bicycle. They're going to know that the same bicycle was found at the defendant's house, Zachary Hughes. And so really the whole thing is just a completely bizarre situation. I don't even know any Juilliard trained pianists, let alone somebody who rides on a bike and goes and commits murder for somebody, which is what he's alleged to have done, right? So these text messages are important. Let's just say there's no text messages, right? Then the case is just a completely different case, because now you have somebody who's not really related to Parcell, killing Parcell and putting rose petals around her, right? The whole thing is completely bizarre. He's got no criminal history, so he's not a serial killer, not being alleged of being a serial killer. So the text messages are important. They're extremely important. I want to know, in detail. I want to get knee deep into the relationship between these two, and the text messages are exactly, there's no recorded conversation, so the text messages are what we're going to have to go on to see how this Zachary Hughes, Juilliard trained pianist, was brought into murdering somebody over a custody battle.
Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, Mike, you want to know it, not from a legal standpoint, because they don't have to prove motive, because what those are going to provide is motive to the jury. Why would he do it? As far as the physical evidence, you could convict this guy without that whole aspect of the case. Let's throw Mello out of the equation altogether. Just looking at the physical evidence, the DNA under the nails, the ring video, the identification by the neighbor, the car, the bike, that's more than enough just to convict on the murder alone.
You have enough to convict him without it, but here's the way I look at it, right? The further a person is removed from an interpersonal relationship, the more that motive matters. Motive is not like an element in the crime, right? It's not required, but the more you are removed, look, if we're talking about an ex-wife and an ex-husband, we wouldn't even be talking about it. We're talking about somebody who's a complete stranger and who had nothing to gain from it, right? So the forensic evidence ties them there, but the prosecutor also doesn't know what the defense is going to come out. They really don't know, right? Maybe we might find out that he was there at the house before, I don't know, for a piano lesson. We don't know, right? So the text messages and creating it, because the motive is awesome. We've seen other cases where the defendant is literally a caricature of a defendant. Life insurance policy, affair, all of these things, right? So the more of that, the better for the state, because again, whenever a person is disconnected from the victim, motive becomes more important.
Oh, I love it. All right, good stuff. And, this murder does seem intensely personal.
Yes.
Just the way it's sort of
31 stab wounds. So are you kidding? And the rose petals sprinkled around. I agree.
You might be right, Michael. All right, stand by. I want to bring back in our guest, still with us, trial attorney Michael Jaafar. Michael, one of the problems with this testimony, and looking at it from the perspective of a defense attorney, is it's very attackable, because what he's doing is he's looking at encrypted messages that he's interpreting. And even as he prefaces his answers with, well, I interpret that to mean, I mean, that's problematic.
It's driving me crazy.
I could not, when he said that and I didn't see an objection from the other side, it was insane, right? So this defense table, I'm sure they're very, very qualified defense attorneys. They deferred their opening statement. They did not jump out and scream when he said, here's how I interpret. My God, well, it was like 4 or 5 different objections. It would have been sustained. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, attackable, but looking at the cast of characters and the way they're sitting mute for this, I'm wondering how well they would attack it. But yes, very attackable. This is how I interpret it. Are you crazy? Who cares how you interpret it? That's not your job. So, I mean, 4 different levels of attacks that I can think of on this line of questioning.
But let's take it back a step, because I too was about to Bigfoot you and say, let me jump in, because I cannot believe it either. But when we're talking about this, I wonder if there was a pretrial motion, because come on, he did testify that the words were jumbled up, and then he's interpreting them and what he thinks they mean. There is no way there was not a pretrial motion to deal with it. But I would agree, how can a jury take the words that he's then said, let me rearrange them and interpret this as, and let's take it a step further. as a defense attorney, do you attack that on cross, or do you leave it alone, Michael, and use that in closing?
It's not great. I didn't think about it till you said it. I think I would attack it on cross. I think I would have to attack it on cross, because I would attack it on cross because I could still attack it in closing arguments. I would attack it in the ways that we've just described. But attacking it on cross allows you to also expose the fact that the person testifying right now is just guessing, right? I would get up there and say, sir, you're just guessing. You don't really know what these messages meant. No, I don't know. Because at the end of the day, what I really want to know as a juror, and because I'm puzzled by just watching this case, why were you so beholden to Mello? What was going on, right? And these messages will answer the question. They will give me they'll shed some light for me as a juror as to why are we even here? Dude, you made it. You're an artist. Why are you even here? This Mello guy doesn't seem to have offered any value in your life, right? You're not some desperate homeless person and he's just giving you money. Why are you here? So these messages would shed light on it. So on cross, I would want to just let the jury know, look, this investigator, this person testifying, this examiner doesn't actually know what he's talking about. And then in closing, I would attack it that would say he had no idea what he was talking about, and he admitted to it. So,
and Michael, that's exactly what you were saying. What is it about the relationship between the two that would cause the defendant to do this?
To take this on himself. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. All right. Thank you, Michael Jaafar, for joining us tonight.